Oh, I did not do the experiment that was requested yesterday. We did not make Hal Sparks angry so that he would become Bob Cesca,
Right.
Which we didn't get him wet after feed him or get him wet after midnight. No.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I didn't see that yesterday, and so I was getting all kinds of DMs, people repeating that joke back to me, and I was okay with it.
All right.
I was cool with it. See, the thing is, though, when I get angry, I turn into Chris.
Oh,
see, that's how they.
Yes.
Exactly.
There you go.
Our
The
superheroes
chain
are
of
just
succession.
there's like Russian nesting dolls of bigger and bigger
Yeah,
men,
that's exactly right.
muscly men. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God,
The
Bob.
camera, the cameras don't do Chris justice.
No.
By the way, I've seen Chris in person.
Yeah, he's the size of a
so
house. It's really.
The cameras are slimming. Yes,
can't-
they are.
I can't help it.
Yes, you can. You can. Okay. Bob Cesca, where would you like to
Yes.
start with it? Each and every person that worked with Trump works for an entirely different country than the United States of America.
Just incredible. The biggest joke in the world was that Donald Trump went to Washington to drain the swamp.
Right. All that
He just brought
corruption.
the swamp in there with him. All of his stupid friends with their stupid crimes.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, we're gonna. It's unbelievable. I mean, with the tax fraud and all of this stuff that Cy Vance is investigating with Letitia James, that, for example, is just the dumbest. I'm trying to find clean words to say to go along with this, but it's just dumb stuff. It's like, remember, Stephanie, we used to do those stories on the, the old morning shows where, we'd have a kicker story from the wire service about some dumb crook, and we'd call it Crooks Are Stupid
Dumb
or
crook
something like
stack.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Dumb crooks. And so these are dumb crooks. These are very, very dumb crooks.
Right.
Tom Barrack thought that he could leverage his relationships and do all this kind of under the table lobbying.
This is not right, and this is not even including his other raft of crimes, which for the inauguration, which I think they'll probably get to as well. That was just one giant grift.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, well, at long last, I thought this was when the indictment initially came down, which happened to be, as it always does, 3 minutes after I finished my show yesterday.
Yes.
Once that was handed down, I was like, oh, great. We're moving on the inauguration investigation. So, but it's not even that. They're not even close to that.
It's extraordinary, Bob. Like, this grift started actually before the election. I mean, how long? We'll ask Malcolm about how long they've been, grooming Trump and whatever. How long ago his stuff with Russia goes back. But then the minute the campaign started, just one giant treasonous grift, right?
That's the thing that Trump will never understand, is that all these people were taking advantage of him, taking advantage of the fact that he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, let's see what we can get by scamming the old man. Let's see what the old man notices. It's like when we were kids at the dinner table. My dad is a little hard of hearing in one ear or so. And so what we try to do is see which one of me and my brothers we could say an obscenity loud enough that my dad would hear it. And so it was always a dare. Like, let's see if we can get it close to him hearing, but not hearing. And that's exactly what they were doing with Trump. They were seeing how many things they could get away with
like the
without
commercial.
the old man noticing. Yeah.
The girl's home with her boyfriend, and her father goes, a condom. He wants to know if you brought a condom. Yes. Yeah, you, I mean, you said the same thing too, Bob, on Twitter that I was thinking is what is actually happening with Hannity, saying get vaccinated, and you smell nervousness finally. Mitch McConnell looked almost panicked yesterday about COVID vaccine. Steve Scalise, and you just subtweeted, the Dow drops more than 650 points on fears of a COVID rebound, and you said this is part of the red hat gambit. Refuse to get vaccinated, then blame the damage of a COVID resurgence on Biden and the Democrats. But, I guess they must have realized they're playing with fire and killing their base. I don't know what happened, right?
Yeah. It's remarkable what they've gotten away with so far, and now they're trying to walk it all back. This is what they do because it's constantly revising their own history, because they paint themselves into a corner. They can't wiggle out of this stuff, and so they're trying desperately to. Oh, we never said. Tucker Carlson was on his show the other day saying, "Oh, I never said don't take the vaccine."
Oh God!
Right. Yeah,
Oh my God!
Because he used all the weasel words and the question marks in order to not necessarily say it.
Yeah.
So he had plausible deniability coming into a situation like this, where it's actually starting to get serious and people are starting to take notice of the variants and so on. And now it's very strange seeing them backpedal, but I think it's only going to be temporary. I think they can only last for so long before their viewers start to rebel and go, oh, what's going on? And of course, this is another reason why the Red Hats are so nuts, because they're constantly being jerked around by their own leadership, right?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised steam isn't shooting out of their ears like Uncle Fester or something, because they're so confused. It's like, oh, yes, we should worry about the vaccine. Oh, no, don't worry about the vaccine. Sean Hannity, in the course of a single show, will deny the pandemic, deny the efficacy of the vaccine, while also saying, well, go get vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, you said it best on Twitter. You said last year Trump screwed us all. This year his sucker fanboys are screwing us all. And by the way, you also, David Weissman tweeted, it's not the government's job to protect the people. Why do we have the military, Brian Kilmeade? And you said the same cable news network that defended torture and militarizing the police in response to 9/11 are telling us it's not the government's job to protect the people. I mean...
Provide for the common defense.
Yes.
Promote the general welfare. And...
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, none of this has to make sense. All it has to do is to, stimulate the weird confirmation bias, cortex of the brains, these tiny walnut brains of the Red Hat disciples. And that's all they need to do. It's just, if it vaguely makes sense, then they'll start repeating it.
Yes.
But none of this stuff makes sense from the outside.
And this is where, gibberish. Not that this is hard, but you proved Chris Lavoie wrong. You retweeted someone that says it's only a matter of time before COVID mutates beyond the ability of the current vaccines to control it. It only needs a few million unvaccinated bodies to mutate in, and all of us will be hunkered down again. And you just said, yes, this is why the shirkers, refuseniks, and anti-vaxxers are a danger to everyone, not just themselves.
That's why I tell them, hurry up and die.
I see. That's Chris's only strategy.
Because it's not necessarily about protecting one person. It's about protecting an entire community of people.
Yeah.
So yesterday, Candace Owens, who I try never to bring up in conversation, tweeted something along the lines of, well, if this vaccine is free from the government, why isn't insulin and asthma inhalers? Why aren't those free too? And it was the most bizarre thing, because suddenly Candace Owens is coming out in support of Medicare for all.
Right.
Apparently. You're like, oh, thank you. Yes, they should be. Right.
Because first of all, insulin and asthma inhalers should be free. Yes. I mean, they really should be.
Those are not infectious diseases. They are lifetime conditions that you need to manage. Right. This is a pandemic that we're in the middle of that is highly infectious. Yeah. Yes.
If I get diabetes, I'm not going to give it to Kimberly. That's the difference, right? So that's why the government had to step in an emergency way. I mean, Candace Owens, all she needs to do is look at her own former president and understand why this was, the vaccines were helped along and rushed to the public. And so it's obvious why this needed to happen to anyone with a brain in their heads, anyone with functioning gray matter. But she doesn't
by the way, I just said it. That's the only thing I would. It's not even giving him credit. The only reason he tried to rush them is for himself to try to rush the vaccines, right? But he had nothing to do with it. Again, they've been working on this mRNA research for years. He had nothing to do with the science of it. I mean, okay.
There's no bigger coward. There's no bigger coward than Donald Trump. And I love this passage from the Carol Leonard, Phil Rucker book, in which they're talking about how Donald Trump didn't want to wear a mask in public because it would seem weak.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Looking at that doughy, misshapen body.
The man in a girdle was afraid.
Tiptoeing down the ramp at West Point, for example. And this is the guy who didn't want to look weak. Everything about Donald Trump. That's the secret about Donald Trump. Everything he does looks weak.
Yeah.
And when he's trying to be brave and tough, that's when he looks the weakest.
Yeah.
And I think his fans don't understand that distinction.
Yeah,
I think the performative toughness is actual toughness, but it's not. It's weakness.
This is why my favorite game on Twitter is you bitch slapping Donald Trump Jr. This is where you and Hal Sparks just go back and forth. And so Donald Trump Jr., Trader Tot tweeted, so you're saying under Joe Biden's own ideal social media policy, he should be removed from all platforms for spreading misinformation? And you said your dad deliberately fumbled the response to the pandemic. 600,000 Americans are dead, and there's no real end in sight because of your dad. The name Trump will be forever associated with this catastrophe. Also, you. Thank you for that parting thought. because
Yeah.
you, on behalf
Don
of all
Jr.
of us.
See, with Don Jr. and Mike Pillow and Madison Cawthorn and Marjorie Taylor Greene, all these people, you know what they are? They're rodeo clowns.
Yeah.
Their purpose is to say, look over here, but don't look over there, because over there is all of our dumb F crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're trying to keep us away from talking about. So the key to this, as always, Stephanie, we talked about this at the very beginning of the Trump administration. Don't constantly field that tennis ball or the fire hose of tennis balls or whatever we're calling it. Don't constantly field those tennis balls. Get the tennis ball machine and turn it around and face it at them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when Don Jr.'s bringing up, oh, look at that criminal Fauci, you go back at Don Jr. with one of his crimes, one of his many, many crimes, and the malfeasance of his entire family, and especially his dad. That's the key.
Yeah.
Keep the
and by
focus.
the way, if they want to turn it, on the origins of the COVID, Donald Trump again complicit in that.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that pulled our people out of Wuhan. He's the one that disbanded the pandemic response team. So you can't go back and blame Dr. Fauci. I mean, they go back and forth between blaming China and blaming Dr. Fauci. Okay. My point is Donald Trump was the only one consistently saying China's doing a great job. They're very transparent. They're doing terrific. I mean, he is the sole reason for all of this, in my opinion. I mean,
but these are all details in a larger scenario in which Donald Trump created the largest healthcare crisis in the history of the United States.
Yep.
That's what that was, and it didn't need to happen. It happened because Donald Trump wanted to get reelected. He didn't want to look weak. He didn't want to further collapse the economy in an election year because he didn't want to be John McCain in 2008. So these are all things that he's considering as he's going into the pandemic.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that he's completely incompetent. He's completely in over his head, and he was in over his head on day one.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, okay, well, 2020 was a mess for Donald Trump, but those other years.
And the most
whatever.
egregious thing about these books, Bob, is that everyone knew it. All the people around him knew it.
Yes.
That felt the same as we did, that, oh my God, this guy is completely unfit and deranged. Interesting. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we need to create laws that provide a better ramp or runway for people who want to come forward about a president who's behaving like this.
Yes.
We haven't done it yet, but we need a series of Trump reforms based on the fact that Donald Trump exposed all these loopholes in the system. We got to fix those things soon.
You've been saying that forever, Bob, and this is one of those things where it was harrowing going through it. Now it's even more like, it's like hearing after the plane crash, like, oh God, we thought it was that bad. Oh, that's what was happening. It's like,
Yeah.
But anyway, real quick, you had an interesting exchange on Twitter too. Nate Silver said, the every breakthrough infection is big news cycle is getting pretty annoying. It's probably going to give vaccinated people a lot of unnecessary anxiety about Delta while also providing kindling to anti-vaxxers. And you said, no, some vaccinated people are concerned because we were hoping to get back to some degree of normal, but the anti-vaxxers are breeding new variants, delaying normalcy until who knows when. That's the point of these reports and anxiety. This isn't a game or a choice. So
I like Nate Silver. I think he's good at math. I follow his forecasts and so on. I think this kind of tweet is the kind of tweet that you don't put out there because it always precedes, and we've got a year of history to back this up. This kind of tweet from Nate Silver always precedes the subsequent headline, which is Nate Silver tests positive for COVID, the Delta variant. It's like, no, come on. We're not at the stage where we downplay this. We downplayed it a little bit too much at the administration level a year ago, and now, it's like,
and it's a lot of these right-wing.
Why are we worried?
A lot of these right-wing callers to my show, Bob, they're just interested in being douchebags. They're not, I'm just trying to follow the science here. So I get vaccinated, I still get it. So, it's like, I get what he's saying, that it gives anti-vaxxer, but they're not going to get vaccinated anyway. They don't care what the science says, and you can say until you're blue in the face, right, but you won't get really sick, be hospitalized, or die. That's the point of the vaccine.
Yeah, and no matter what we say, they're going to spin it into whatever their agenda is because that's what they do. It doesn't even matter if it makes sense, but that's what they do.
If you get vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask because idiots like you won't get vaccinated, right? Like you can't. You'll do this till an aorta bursts from. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are many podcasts with millions and millions of listeners in which the bro science is flowing copiously. So they're always going to have something that they can fall back on. Doesn't matter what Fauci says or what we say in terms of their response. So I wish we'd stop tiptoeing around the shirkers and refusenicks on this. Enough. They need to act like grown-ups once and for all.
Yep, exactly. Bob Cesca, I love you angry or any other way. You're beautiful when you. And I love that you called me Kimberly by accident.
Yes, right before we went on the air.
I almost did.
I will haunt your dreams.